Hey everyone, we are jumping in with the green cards of Core Set 21. 2021 came up super fast, and I mean, with the way the year's going, I think everybody's looking forward to it. Azusa, Lost But Seeking, a 3-mana 1/2 with a heck of an ability. Play an additional 2 lands on each of your turn. This is a commander all-star, either as a commander or as part of any green deck or any type of deck that can play green. This is a massively powerful effect. I'm actually kind of shocked that they included this in these boosters instead of including it in some of the supplemental commander products that they're doing this year. That's just how in demand this card was, and really surprised. It's also a card that's played in Constructed, making tons of extra land drops with decks that also run things like Primeval Titans. So this is a very powerful card with a new printing. Burlfist Ogre, 4 mana for a 2/3. Whenever you draw a card, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Green's going to want some help there. Certainly, if you've got blue or anything that'll let you draw some extra cards, this gets a lot more reasonable. 4/5 for 4 is insanely good. A 2-power creature for 4 is just rubbish, so it's going to depend on how consistently you can make this work. Sometimes it's just fun to try and make things kind of come together, and it's each card you draw. So, you brainstorm, you just get +6/+6. Canopy Stalker, 4 mana for a 4/2, must be blocked if able, and whenever it dies, you gain a life for each creature that died this turn. So, I mean, I don't love this. I don't love how fragile it is. The life game trigger is probably not ideal. If you're gaining life off of this, you probably just traded with like a 2-power creature. But, I mean, this is something that you may end up having to play in your pool to try and stay in 2 colors. Colossal Dreadmaw. Now this is where green wants to be. A 6/6 trampler for 6 is very fierce. That's going to tower over most stuff on the board and trample right over them. Even if they attempt to chump block, they'll find no quarter there, as their life total will continue to just evaporate. Cultivate is a card that is so good that when Kamigawa block was around, there was a similar card. It was called Kodoma's Reach, and you just went 5-color green. That's how you won. You picked this, you picked Sakura Tribe Elder, and those were like the #1 picks, and then you just took the busted cards that you came across. Didn't matter what color they were, because the mana fixing was going to be that good. Cultivate's right up there. I mean, it's about as good a mana fixing as you can get. You may be able to go 5-color green if you snag some of these early and just rare draft, take the best stuff and just make it work. You've already got the green. That's going to be the majority. You're throwing in a few other basics, and you're going to be able to find those and just play. Also, the fact that it ramps you makes that strategy even better, as you're playing more powerful cards and you're getting to them a turn earlier. So that is some of the most fun sealed decks that I've had way back in the day. That was just ramping up and savagely playing just cards you have no business playing in a sealed deck. Usually your mana is your biggest issue in sealed. You're trying to figure out how you can manage to go 2 colors and be more consistent so you don't get mana screwed, and this was just throw caution to the wind. Anything, pack 5, first black card that you've drafted, not a problem, throw it in there. There's plenty of swamps in the bin to make that work. Here we've got a 2-mana dinosaur with Defender. As long as you control a creature with power 4 or greater, it can attack as though it didn't have Defender. So basically a 2-mana 3/3 wall until you're mostly winning. This card could be totally fine depending on the composition of your deck. I mean, if you've got a bunch of 4-power guys, we saw that Cat earlier, which was not very exciting, but it had 4 power. That's the type of thing you may need to use in order to play this card, and it is a common, so you could potentially get several of them. They don't turn each other on, which is something that happens with other cards in that type of mechanic vein, where it's like they have to attack with another creature, but they can both attack together. In this instance, they don't actually have the ability to trigger each other, so they can attack. Elder Gargaroth, this one's gonna definitely be winning games. I mean, in sealed, forget about it. It's 6/6 for 5. It has Vigilance, Reach, and Trample, and then it just does whatever you need. You're down on cards, let's draw some. You don't have enough creatures, let's just make some beasts. And if you're down on life, you don't want to make sure that you don't get burned out of the game, just start gaining 3 life a turn. Absolutely ridiculous. Vigilance, Trample, Reach can block their flyers, trample over their blockers, and stand in the way when they try and attack back. Definitely one of the best cards that you could possibly open in your sealed. So be very excited if you crack that one this pre-release weekend. Feline Sovereign, 3 mana, 2/3. Other cats you control get +1/+1 and have protection from dogs. I thought the cats and dogs were getting along, and I guess they're just trying to sow the seeds of malcontent as cats would. Dog people know what I'm talking about. Whenever one or more cats you control deal combat damage to a player, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment that player controls. Very flavorful, as cats do just destroy things, knock it off the table just to watch it be destroyed. Just remember, every cat that can kill you will. That's all I'm saying. Fierce Empath, 3 mana for a 1/1. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you can search your library for a creature with converted mana cost 6 or more, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. This has seen play in the past in food chain decks, allowing you to go ahead and tutor up something like Emrakul and ramp mana along the way. Definitely a casual card. It's an elf, so there's some consideration there for tribal. And I believe this card has actually been worth some money at different points in Magic history. I think it's cooled off significantly as of late, but there was a point where this was actually a card that was needed for like legacy decks, and there just weren't really many of them around because it went from total garbage to something that people actually needed. And I believe this reprint, it really depends on the price. If this is going to be worth $1 or $2, then awesome for people. If not, I mean, nothing exciting there. Fungal Rebirth at 3 mana, return a permanent card from your graveyard to your hand, and if a creature died this turn, create 2 1/1 Saproling tokens. It's an instant. This card, I think, is quite good. The ability to return a creature is very solid, making those 1/1s very tricky. That can do some serious blocking. They could be swinging with a couple of 4/4s or something on the ground, thinking they're going to actually connect with lethal, and you can potentially do some chump blocking and preserve some of your other attackers, turn the tables, and just win, especially if the permanent you're returning has haste. So this is a dangerous one for limited, and the fact that it actually adds to the board, I think, is very, very interesting. Though you do have to have a creature die this turn. It's not every time, so this Morbid is what they called that the first time around. This is definitely got a big, big upside if you can make that happen. Garruk, Savage Herald. It's one of my least favorite Planeswalkers I've ever seen. I think people are going to have a bad time playing this card. At 6 mana, he's going to show up, and then some of the time, you're going to reveal the top card of your library and do nothing. He's got 5 loyalty, so he's going to go up to 6 when you plus him, but that's just going to feel really bad when you whiff. The -2, you have to have another creature, so he's a terrible top deck when you don't even have a creature. Well, not terrible. I mean, you've got like a 50-50 chance of drawing a creature, perhaps, depending on how you've constructed your deck. Maybe 17 creatures out of a 40-card deck, depending on how many cards in you are. But, I mean, this is just going to feel bad. It is at least in the Planeswalker deck. You're not going to draft this card and be crushed when it doesn't work out. But for people whose first exposure to Magic is going to be this card, I would have rather seen something more reliable and just less disappointing. Planeswalkers should show up and just take over. You should be excited when you draw them. You should be excited when they resolve. And when they stick around and your opponent isn't able to answer them, it should feel really good. And this one just has the potential to feel just awful at every step of the way. Garruk's Gorehorn, a 5 mana 7/3. It's aggressive. It can trade down disastrously, but it can also take players out very quickly. 7 damage at a time, just 3 swings from your starting life total and sealed. And that's a dangerous common right there. Garruk's Harbinger, a 3 mana 4/3. This is where I like to be. Hexproof from black, which is no small thing. There is some great black removal, so not being able to be targeted by that is a nice upside. And whenever it deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, you look at the top cards of your library, so in this case 4, and then you reveal a creature card or Garruk planeswalker and put them into your hand, put the rest on the bottom in a random order. I'm impressed. I think this is really fun. Like, the fact that you're seeing 4 cards means you're way less likely to whiff, and that's important. I think if the Garruk planeswalker let you look at some cards, like look at the top 3 or something, it would just feel less awful. Whereas this guy is going to consistently find stuff, and he's undercosted to boot. 3 mana, 4/3. Everything about this creature is going to be great. If you're going green, you're definitely playing him, and you're going to be very happy about it. Garruk's Uprising, 3 mana, a lot of text here. When it enters the battlefield, if you have a creature with 4 or greater power, you draw a card. Gives your creatures trample all the time. And then whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. So this really cares about 4 power, and you can play it to draw cards. You can draw creatures later and keep drawing. So a potential draw engine with this guy, if you've constructed your deck to have a bunch of 4 power creatures, this could be really, really solid. But I mean, it really is contingent on making sure that you're getting a bunch of cards out of it. You don't want to play this with no creature on board and then hope to draw something later. Even if you draw a card off of this, it's not good enough. You need to draw several cards to make putting this in a sealed deck worth it. Garruk's Warsteed Planeswalker deck, 3/5 Vigilance, fetches up your Garruk, and you know, if it was getting a better card, I'd totally do a thumbs up here. But yeah, this is just fetching a nightmare. Garruk Unleashed, this guy can do some damage. +1ing him gives a creature you control +3/+3 and trample until end of turn, and -2 makes a 3/3 beast. So you're always going to be able to at least get a 3/3 beast for 4 mana here, plus have a planeswalker kicking around. And it says if an opponent controls more creatures than you, put a loyalty counter on Garruk after you make that beast. So it'll catch up pretty fast. You're only -1ing essentially. It's not quite that. You're -2, then you're adding. So if he's at 2 and you use that, he will die, because that trigger, that activated ability goes on the stack, and then he'll die as a state-based effect. So it's not quite the same as just -1ing. But that said, it's pretty similar, and I think this guy's obviously going to be very good in Limited, and probably be something that people consider playing in Constructed. The emblem is at the beginning of your end step. You can search your library for a creature and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. It's a ways to go to get there, but certainly in Commander, the ability to get this guy up to 7 and then start getting absolutely ridiculous creatures at the end of each end step is very exciting. And the fact that it's at the end step is a little bit more balanced than, say, during your upkeep, where you could potentially get something and give it haste and then attack. So I think this card should be fun. Gnarled Sage, a 5 mana 4/4 with reach. And as long as you've drawn 2 or more cards this turn, it gets +0/+2 and has vigilance. So if you're able to draw an extra card on your turn, you're going to be able to swing pretty fearlessly. A 4/6 vigilance, probably just going to connect to the teeth or just get chump blocked. So you're generating value or just pressuring their life total, either way. And the fact that it has reach all the time is going to make it very difficult for opposing creatures to get in there in the air. And as a 4/4 just on the ground. I mean, this guy's a good blocker, good attacker. Heroic Intervention. What can I say? This card took off big time with Pioneer. Commander players have been absolutely thrilled to take advantage of making their creatures hexproof and indestructible, countering all of the best removal in the format. All right, so we had a customer there. Super Spicy reprint. This card was worth a ton before it showed up as a rare in this set. Expect the value to be halved at least. Still, hopefully, an exciting card, as it's got a ton of casual play in Commander and a solid card in Pioneer. We've got Hunter's Edge, 4 mana, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then it deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control, better than fighting. and just conditional removal for green, totally fine, and pretty sweet art as well. Invigorating Surge. I think players will have fun with this at casual tables. For 3 mana, you put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, then double the number of +1/+1 counters on it. Doubling up counters is a pretty wild effect, especially if you can reuse this ability multiple times. Jolrel Mulwani. I'm not even going to try. Recluse. Whenever you draw your second card, you get a 2/2 cat, and you can pay 6 to probably win the game. Everything's going to get to the size of cards in your hand. Could be a solid commander, and it's an interesting card. Beautiful art. I think this is a good printing overall. It's the type of card that you look at and try and think about how you'd want to use it, which is exactly what a card like this should be. Life Goes On, a reprint. I'll have extra copies of this now for my Pauper decks. It's a common sideboard card in green decks for Pauper that run a lot of creatures, so not necessarily the control strategies, but you know, stompy, aristocrats, anything that potentially has an easy way of sacrificing a creature or having a creature die, but also might need that life gain versus the more aggressive red decks. 1 mana to gain 8 life is so much better than just countering a lightning bolt, and it goes a long way towards swinging that match. If you have an unfavorable Pauper matchup versus red and you're on green, this is certainly powerful. Speaking of powerful green cards, Llanowar Visionary. It's very on the nose. We got Llanowar Elves being smushed together with Elvish Visionary, literally just adding everything up. 3 mana. If it was 1 green, it would be a little bit more on the nose, but they made it even better by making it 2 and a green. It's mana fixing, or it's mana ramp. Draws a card. It's a 2/2 body. Incredibly good card. Expect this to see a lot of play in Pauper. I would be happy to play this in Limited, as it draws a card and ramps me and can win the game by attacking or blocking. This guy, what an MVP. Ornery Dilophosaur. I'm not sure that's a real dinosaur. Maybe it is. Let me know in the comments. Death Touch for 4. Whenever it attacks, if you have a creature with power 4 or greater, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn, making it a 4/4. I think that's probably the dinosaur from Jurassic Park with the thing popping out, the frills on the side. That may be what they're trying to emulate there. It's certainly what it feels like. Probably not the best forecasting cost creature that green has, but it may make the cut, especially if the rest of the deck is all 4/4s. Portcullis Vine. Talk about power creep. Wall of Wood was already, it was terrible. We've got 1 green for a 0/3 defender, which is just sad, but you can pay 2 and tap it, sacrifice a creature with defender to draw a card, making this something that can chump block and then replace itself. You can sacrifice other creatures in response to removal as long as they have defender. This card, not very good, but you know, there are some people that really enjoy trying to make walls work, and this will certainly help out those type of decks. Predatory Wurm, 4 mana, 4/4. Notice a theme. This is the type of thing that green wants. They really want that 4 power, and this is one of the Planeswalker deck cards. So it's going to end up being a 6/6 when you have that awful Garruk in play. 6/6 Vigilance for 4 is certainly going to lord over those casual games. Pride Malkin, a 2/1 cat for 3. When it enters the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 on a creature you control, and each creature with a +1/+1 counter that you control has trample. So it's essentially a 3/2 worst case scenario. You can put that counter where you want. You can be flickering this creature in and out if you have the ability to do that, getting +1/+1 counters. I'd imagine Cat Tribal is going to be more of a thing in Commander, and this type of card could certainly see play in those type of decks. Primal Might. Target creature you control gets +X/+X until end of turn. Then it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. It's certainly playable if you're in green in sealed. Doesn't really feel like the type of card people are going to play in any type of constructed, even Commander. It's a big mana sink. It leaves the shields down, And yeah, I mean it's really probably quite good in limited. I mean, 1 green to have a creature fight another target creature is, I think, a playable card in some formats. So yeah, I mean, maybe this will be something that's good enough for constructed. But yeah, I mean, it's a cool looking card. Quirion Dryad. I love this card. I used to travel all over New England, went overseas a bunch of times playing this card, and it is just a lot of fun. It also teaches a super important lesson. It says whenever you play a white, blue, black, or red spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Quirion Dryad. Teaches green players to play other colors, and just really fun. This was used in Vintage back in the day with cantrips like Brainstorm and Ponder to just really pump her up, and then ultimately win with Cunning Wish for Berserk to just trample over. Of course, Time Walk was incredibly good in that deck. Fast Bond along with Gush. I mean, I love this card. People are actually playing this new way of playing Magic called Middle School, which is cards prior to the modern. Actually, I guess that's not Middle School. There's a bunch of different formats. Some of them are cards prior to Mirrodin, and I might have to check it out. I mean, that is my favorite era of Magic, and now that other people are actually splashing around in that pool, I may have to revisit it. Ranger's Guile, a green to give a creature +1/+1 and hexproof until end of turn at instant speed. This is a kind of mid-range combat trick, can counter removal, which is nice though. The +1/+1, not the biggest bonus, so not as likely to create a favorable combat situation as say a +2/+2 or +3/+3, which you sometimes get for 1 green. But the hexproof is a nice touch, and if you're playing an aggressive green strategy, this could certainly be part of the mix. And if you're countering a 5-mana removal spell with this, you're going to feel really good about it. Return to Nature, reprinted again. They just keep reprinting this card, and every time somebody, like a Legacy player, thinks it's a new printing and is excited about it. It's really just kind of weird. They did Thrones, I think it was Amonkhet. I don't remember the other ones. I think it's been printed like 3 times now. I think this makes the 4th. Anyways, the first time that you see this card, you know, as a control player, it looks pretty good. You're destroying an artifact or an enchantment for 2, so that's already a naturalize. But then the fact that you can exile a card from a graveyard makes it a strictly better card, and we're kind of hardwired for that. I'll do another video about that another time, but from an evolutionary perspective, humans, when we see something that's strictly better than something else, we are hardwired to appreciate that, because if you line things up, if you have Return to Nature, Naturalize, and some other disenchant effect, if you pick Return to Nature, it's never the worst choice, because Return to Nature is better than Naturalize, so you'll never be last. If you're running from bears, you just don't need to be, you don't need to be the fastest, you just need to not be the last. So for humans, we love effects like this, things that are strictly better than previous printings that were already playable, really feel great when you play them. Run Afoul, fantastic card at common too. This is something that can see play in Pauper. One of my top 10 for the set. Target opponent sacrifices a creature with flying. This has legacy applications, taking out things like Baleful Strix, things as big as Emrakul that you normally can't target. I love this printing, and super pushed. 1 mana, and the fact that it gets around the normal problems. So like Merit Lage is a big thing in Legacy, this 20/20 flyer that we attack each other with, sometimes as early as turn 2. This you can throw out instead of an Edict, like a Diabolic Edict or Liliana's Triumph. They won't have any other flyers typically. They might have a guy on the ground that they just sacrifice to a Diabolic Edict and keep their 20/20. With this, they have to have multiple flyers, which I think this lines up to be a playable card. Very interesting printing. 10 out of 10. Sabertooth Mauler. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it and untap it. This guy gets to be that 4/4 threshold pretty quick at common. You can certainly do worse, and I think you'll be happy to sleeve this up at your pre-release. The Sanctum of Fruitful Harvest. At the beginning of your pre-combat main, add X mana, where X is the number of shrines you control, any color mana. So this is essentially a 3 mana rampant growth of sorts. Probably reasonable fixing, not as good as Cultivate, but playable on its own, which is more than some of the other shrines can be said to be. And the fact that you're able to get those extra colors mean maybe you can splash some of those other shrines in. If you are playing multiple shrines in your pre-release pool, this is almost certainly going to be one of them. Scavenging Ooze is now in Pioneer, 2/2 for 2, and you can pay a green to exile a creature card, or a card from a graveyard. If it's a creature, you get +1/+1 counter and a point of life. This is a vintage playable card. This is played in Legacy very commonly, and a welcome addition to your commander deck if you're able to play these colors. I mean, this is really a high quality card. It was originally only in Commander, and before the other printings it was very expensive. It's come down significantly since then. I don't expect this to be a particularly expensive card anymore after this printing. This is something that I expect will probably rise up in value once M21 goes out of circulation, as its gut staying power, it is able to stand up against the best cards that have been printed. It's not the most busted thing, but it's a quality card for the mana for what it does. Setessan Training, 2 mana, enchant a creature you control, draw a card, and it gets +1/+0 and trample. I mean, I don't think this is the worst 23rd card, the fact that it replaces itself, but it does generally set you up to get 2 for 1. The fact that if it works, you're just replacing itself is pretty nice. Yeah, nothing too exciting here. Skyway Sniper, 1 mana for a 1/2 with reach, and you can pay 3 to do 1 damage to target creature with flying. It's an elf archer. I guess I would have liked it more if it was common. That could be an interesting card in Pauper. As it stands, I don't see really any type of home for this. It is an elf that costs 1, so perhaps in your elf commander deck you're looking for more 1-drops to power up your Cradles and Priest of Titania, but not the most exciting. Probably would have been cooler if it did 1 damage to everything with flying and players, like a hurricane effect. That would have been pretty busted. They're pretty interesting. Not necessarily even that busted. Snarespinner, 1/3 for 2 with reach. Whenever it blocks a creature with flying, it gets +2/+0, making it a 3/3. So this is going to stack up favorably versus a lot of the flyers in the format. If it's not good enough to main deck in your green deck, it'll certainly be something you reach for in the sideboard. Spore Web Weaver, 3 mana for a 1/4 with reach. This one has hexproof from blue, and whenever it's dealt damage, you gain 1 life and create a green Saproling creature token. I'm not really sure the synergy between Saprolings and spiders. I don't know what they're going for there, but it does make some bodies. Not the most exciting printing. It's on color, like you probably play it, but just the 1 power is not super exciting. If you're attacking with this thing, who cares? If you're keeping it back, maybe you're stopping them from attacking you, but that's not generally how you're going to be winning your drafts with green. Thrashing Brontodon. This, I think, is a very high quality card. A 3/4, it's a reprint, and you can pay 1 and sack it to destroy an artifact or enchantment. The fact that you can do that at instant speed makes it a fantastic response to removal. A 3/4 is a valid threat on its own. You can continue attacking or keeping this back as a blocker, forcing your opponent to eventually remove it, and at that time you can just take out a quality target in an enchantment or artifact. That guy is really ready to do some work for you at pre-release. Titanic Growth, +4/+4 for 2 mana. This is very high quality pump. At 2 mana, it's ideal perfect pump is 1 mana combat tricks. Those are the absolute best, but 2 mana, this is a fair value. +4/+4 is a very real amount of damage that can be used to close out a game, killing a player, or just making your creature bigger than your opponent's and winning that trade in combat, trading your Titanic Growth for their quality creature. Of course, it gets better with trample as well. as the extra damage can go through to the player. Track down 2 mana, sorcery, scry 3, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature or a land, draw a card. At 3 mana, it's not really super exciting for constructed. It's possible there'll be a pauper deck that's going to be happy enough to play this, but overall, if this was 1 mana, it'd be phenomenal. Like, it'd be really, really good, and they're very careful about doing 1 mana cantrips at this point. So I suppose it's one of those like 23rd cards that you're not going to be super embarrassed about, particularly if you have some upside for playing instants and sorceries. I hope the audio hasn't been too bad. I got up to talk to a customer and realized the mic was all the way over there. Truffle Snout. When it enters the battlefield, choose 1, put a +1/+1 counter on Truffle Snout, or you gain 4 life. 3 mana, 2/2 may be necessary depending on your curve. You do want to be making the best use of your mana during your pre-release. And no, it's a 3. Sorry, it's a 3/3 for 3. This guy's totally fine. Put a +1/+1 counter on him is just great. A 3/3 for 3 is very, very good. So this guy's good. Late game, if you're in bad shape, you can potentially gain the life, get outside of burn range. So you're going to be totally fine just leaving this guy up in your green deck at pre-release. Warden of the Woods, Vigilance 5/7 for 6. Whenever he becomes the target of a spell or an ability an opponent controls, you may draw 2. This guy's legit, especially if you've got mana ramp. Casting this guy on turn 5 or even 4 is just feels insurmountable. You're going to be able to fearlessly attack into them, and then if you have any type of removal, I mean, God help them if they try and throw a pair of 4/4s in front of this and you kill one in response. That is just carnage. So this guy, very, very high quality uncommon. This is the type of thing that I typically ride to victory, are those really good uncommons. I generally don't open good rares in pre-releases. It's just not really my gift. But I typically will have very good commons and uncommons, which are more than enough to get the job done. And this is the type of guy that I would often be sleeving up. Wildwood Patrol, a 3 mana 4/2, again 4 power, super important for so many effects as we've seen now in green. The trample is nice, being able to potentially go over a 1 toughness creature. Even if you're trading with like a 3/1, you're going to get in some extra damage and keep the life totals going in the right direction. Wildwood Scourge, when it enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, and whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put onto a non-Hydra creature you control, put a +1/+1 counter on Wildwood Scourge. So you're putting a +1/+1 counter on one of your humans or dogs or cats or whatever else you get going on. This is going to get one as well. And this is just a high quality uncommon. There's times where this type of card has been rare, paying a green and X to get an XX. I think Ivy Elemental might have been one of the first, way back in like Mercadian Masks or Odyssey, something like that. But this guy, totally fine for green. And we're back to Azusa. So that's it for the green cards. We're going to take a look at the colorless, multicolored cards, lands, anything else that fell through the cracks in our final M21 spoiler video. And then we're going to be on to Jumpstart, which is going to be coming up pretty soon. I mean, it's right after this pre-release. We're going to be getting a whole new ton of cards. So Wizards is just making that printing press go. Let me know if you enjoy these videos, and any way that I can make them improve would be welcome to hear from you as well.